Welcome to round 3 of the 2015 World Championship Qualifier. This is Michael Kohanam. I'm here with Robert Boyajian for our round 3 feature match. In this match, we are featuring Brian McDermott with his Teller Knight deck against Jarrell Winston and his Ritual Beast deck. Winston is not using Emergency Teleport in his Ritual Beast deck, making it a fairly unique build. Traditionally, Ritual Beast decks have been using Emergency Teleport to facilitate summoning their fusion monsters as quickly as possible, but Winston has declined to include that in his deck, and instead is using some tech cards, including 3 copies of Mistake, with the hopes of counteracting the more popular cards in his opponent's deck.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of decks geared this weekend to specifically fight against Necroz, so the inclusion of Mistake makes a lot of sense for Winston, and cutting cards like Emergency Teleport, while they're powerful, as long as your deck is able to remain consistent enough and then function well with cards like Mistake, I think the sacrifice in power level while maintaining consistency to gain an edge against Necroz is worthwhile. And we'll also see Mistake probably be not the best card, but fairly strong against Brian McDermott's deck because it relies so heavily on searching with Teller Knight Deny.
McDermott is using a fairly conventional Teller Knight deck that uses a total of 11 monster cards, 3 of which are Teller Knight Deneb. So, as Robbie mentioned, it is possible that Mistake can really throw him off by preventing him from searching his deck for cards to add to his hand.
Yes, we also see that Brian McDermott is playing Mind Crush, which is actually fairly strong against Ritual Beast as they search quite a bit. So we'll see how that works out for him. But besides that, it seems like both players are just geared to fight against Necroz, but then you do expect to fight against other decks during the tournament. So we'll see how their main deck choices line up against one another.
It's really interesting. Winston is using 3 copies of Mistake, which, as we mentioned, is strong card against Necroz decks, but he's also using 1 copy of Trap Stun, which is typically not very effective against Necroz decks, which usually use very few trap cards. But that Trap Stun here can be very effective against McDermott's Teller Knight deck. It's also possible he's using that Trap Stun so that he can shut off his own Mistake to take advantage of his own search effects, including one of the most popular cards in the deck, the effect of the fusion monster Ulti Canahawk to search his deck for cards to add to his hand. Once again, without Emergency Teleport, it's going to be harder for him to summon Ulti Canahawk than it is for most Ritual Beast decks, but it won't be too difficult because all he needs is 1 Ritual Beast and 1 Spiritual Beast and 1 Ritual Beast Tamer to summon it. So it looks like this duel is underway, and both players have drawn their opening hand.
All right, we'll see who we're going first shortly. Winston starts off with the Upstart Goblin. He has Mistake already in his hand, which is pretty... Oh, a second copy now. So 2 copies of Mistake already in his hand. So if he's able to put up some kind of a solid field before activating his Mistakes against Teller Knight, that can usually spell a quick win, assuming that Brian McDermott didn't open Teller Knight Vega into another Teller Knight to then go off and maybe use Evil Swarm Exciton or Diamond Direwolf or Castel the Skyblaster Musketeer to deal with them. But it seems like although Winston opened up with 2 Mistake and a Dimensional Fissure, which might be enough to hinder and buy time against a deck like Necroz, he doesn't have the offense to pair with it, so...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here's the downside with Winston's deck. He's using, as we mentioned, 3 copies of Mistake. He's using a copy of Macrocosmos and a copy of Dimensional Fissure, which he has on the field. He's drawn 2 copies of Mistake and a Dimensional Fissure in his opening hand, but can't get 2 monsters on the field to actually summon a fusion monster. Mm-hmm. So that's fairly problematic. Yeah. So he's off to what would have been a pretty good start against a Necroz deck, but now he's staring down a 1900 attack Thunder King Ryo, which just hit him directly.
Yeah, even though he was able to stop the reinforcements of the army from resolving with Mistake, so getting a little advantage off that transaction, if he's not able to deal with Thunder King and a couple back row, then it doesn't matter that McDermott necessarily lost a card there.
Yes.
So we'll see what ends up happening.
In case anyone missed it, McDermott activated reinforcement in the army, and by chaining Mistake, Winston was able to stop McDermott from searching his deck for a card to add to his hand. Now Winston summons Ritual Beast Tamer Elder, And with its effect, he's permitted one additional normal summon, and he summons Ritual Beast Rempengu.
So is this the main way that Ritual
Spiritual
Beast gets 2 monsters in play, is with that card when they're not using things like Emergency Teleport? Is there another way to accelerate monsters in play?
Yeah, I mean, I guess without Emergency Teleport, you lose one of those ways, but you also do have Wen and Lara who can special summon monsters.
Okay.
He's only running 1 copy of each of those, though, it appears. He is running 3 copies of the Elder. So for Winston, it certainly looks like that's the most likely.
Okay.
And that's what we see here. He summons the Rempengu with his additional normal summon, activates its effect to banish Apelio from his deck, as well as the Ulti Apelio from his extra deck. And now he's there, sits there with an Elder and a Spiritual Beast on his field.
See what he does next. Looks like he's going to fusion summon.
So, yeah, he can banish both of them to summon a fusion monster. Normally, McDermott would be able to negate that monster's summon by sending Thunder King Ryo to the graveyard. He is unable to do that here because Dimensional Fissure is on the field.
Correct, because it is a cost for Thunder King to go to the graveyard, and he cannot do so.
Right, he cannot send it to the graveyard. That's certainly a fortunate interaction for Winston.
And it looks like he fusion summoned Ritual Beast Ulti Petalfin.
That is correct. So Ulti Petalfin is really tough to destroy. It looks like McDermott is attempting to negate its summon, but
hopefully the judge catches that. He's reading into verify, so that interaction most definitely does not work.
yeah.
Verify with the same judge.
Well, I know I can negate the fusion. I know I can negate the fusion. It's not what fusion. That's what. That's why I was asking. That's
So
why
although he would be able to negate the fusion of Ritual Beast normally because they're inherent, he cannot do so because of Dimensional Fissure, as we mentioned before.
Correct. For those who don't know, Ulti Petalfin has 2,800 attack points, like most of the Ulti Ritual Beasts.
2,800 defense points.
2,800 defense points. Like most of the Ulti Ritual Beasts, it can split itself back into 2 monsters from the Banish Zone. And this particular monster has protection from card effects.
So then...
Cannot be destroyed by card effects. So you can still target it, you can still banish it, but it cannot be destroyed by card effects.
So then that Raigeki that McDermott just played was quickly...
Yes, that was completely ineffective. You would think it would be, yeah.
Yeah, when you first activated Raigeki, I assumed he might have some kind of effect negation, maybe a breakthrough skill or a Fiendish Chain, something along those lines to
maybe he
help
does.
deal, but
Does he?
he did not activate anything, so it looks like he just did not read or did not recall that Petalfin had that ability.
So yeah. So that Raigeki is wasted.
This is Ritual Beast Ambush, correct?
Yes, I believe this is probably his end phase, right? Looks like he couldn't get over the Petalfin. In the end phase, he activates Ritual Beast Ambush, which lets him special summon any 2 Spiritual Beasts or Ritual Beasts from his Banish Zone or Graveyard.
Awesome.
So 2 of them
Very
to
strong
field.
card.
Regional qualifiers, as well as beta format and regular win map, and starter deck tournaments. You can sign up for any of those.
It actually summons 1 Ritual Beast Tamer and 1 Spiritual Beast.
McDermott did have breakthrough skill set, and he just activated during the draw phase, I believe, on... I'm not sure because there was no like pointing or any physical targeting, but it looks like he would negate Petalfin, correct? Is there another...
I don't know, because if he would negate the Petalfin, he could just split it back up into 2 monsters. That seems fairly ineffective.
Would Drell activate either the effects of Rampengu or Elder that turn? Like, do either of them benefit him in any way that they would have prompted McDermott to breakthrough skill? Or are they...
I don't know. I feel like I would take a wait-and-see approach to see if he summons any monsters that you want to negate the effects of. I mean, like that breakthrough skill obviously would have been effective. It's interesting because if he had chained the breakthrough skill to the right... Yeah, no, he should have done that, or could have done that. If he had chained the breakthrough skill to the Raigeki,
he would have been able to destroy
Yeah,
Petalfin.
he would have been able to destroy Petalfin, and Winston's other option for plays he can make is to split the Petalfin into 2 monsters, but neither of those monsters would have protection from Regeki, so they would be destroyed. So that's probably the type of use you're looking for out of that breakthrough skill. I'm not exactly sure what he got out of it there. I mean, I guess he was able to quickly force Winston to choose whether or not to split his monster back up.
That's possible. Also, is Rampengu a once per turn effect? So
They are... Each of them can only be special summoned once per turn. Let me see. Let's look into that.
if Rampengu is once per turn, it could have been very possible that Winston simply activated the Rampengu and then McDermott responded with breakthrough skill.
It is once per turn. You can use the effect, but it's not. You can only use the effect of Spiritual Beast Rampengu once per turn.
Okay. Well,
So if it leaves and comes back, you can do it again.
I'm just going to give McDermott the benefit of the doubt then and say he most likely breakthrough skilled the Rampengu, and there was an activation by Winston. But even though he got off to a pretty rough start, this is a pretty commanding field. I'm not sure.
Yes. He turned that ambush into ulti Apelio. Now he has another Apelio on the field. It looks like McDermott summoned Altair.
There's no match for the might of Winston's Spiritual Beasts.
Yeah, I mean, Altair is not very effective when you can't land a monster in the graveyard thanks to Dimensional Fissure. So things are not going well for McDermott here.
Drawing a dead copy of Stellar Nova Alpha also is not going well. With
Yes.
2,300 life points remaining.
Wow. His 4 cards were Solemn Warning, Mind Crush, and 2 copies of Stellar Nova Alpha. So that was very ineffective, to say the least. Winston was able to win without, taking the traditional route of using Ulti Canahawk to just add a lot of cards to his hand. And he closed off that avenue by flipping Mistake so early, but at the same time, that Mistake was pretty effective in that duel. So that seems to be what Winston was going for, and it worked out for him.
Yeah. Looking at the side decks and watching Winston's side, it looks like he's going to be putting in copies of Twister along with Chaos Trap Hole. So Chaos Trap Hole is very, very strong against Teller Knight specifically because they're so reliant on their normal summons, especially of Altair, that buying yourself a whole turn by trading it for Chaos Trap Hole is one of the best deals you can do. And also Twister, most Teller Knight decks play multiple copies of Call Han, some even play Oasis of the Dragon Souls. Fiendish Chain is a popular card. Twister is... any spell and trap card removal in general is going to be very strong against Teller Knight, but specifically Twister, cards that destroy face-ups are... they're... Whereas a card like Mystical Space Typhoon is obviously better, you can only play 3 copies. So with Twister, Winston gains an additional spell and trap card removal that is great at dealing with some of the best cards in McDermott's deck, such as Call of the Haunted.
Yeah, so McDermott is playing 3 copies of Call the Haunted and 3 copies of Fiendish Chain, all of which will be vulnerable to Twister. Winston is using 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon in his main deck with an additional copy in his side deck. And then, as Robbie mentioned, since you can only use 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, he also has 1 copy of Twister in his side deck.
Yeah, we can also probably assume that Trap Stun is going to go in from Winston's side deck. And then looking at McDermott's, he actually has copies of Imperial Iron Wall, which is one of the best cards against Ritual Beast.
That's pretty much as good as it gets against Ritual Beasts. Winston is somewhat able to counteract that with his Trap Stuns and their ability to negate it for the turn.
Yes.
But Ritual Beast decks largely focus on banishing a Ritual Beast, a Spiritual Beast monster, and a Ritual Beast Tamer to summon their biggest ulti Ritual Beast fusions. So we can definitely expect both of McDermott's copies of Imperial Iron Wall to be moved into his main deck for the second duel.
Hopefully with a little bit more experience after that first game, realizing some of the card interactions, McDermott has a better chance not to make some of the missteps he made in the first game. So we'll see. McDermott's also using Galaxy Cyclone. Although it's 1 copy, that card has to be strong against a Ritual Beast, right? Especially if he's using cards like Mistake and Macrocosmos. And
Yes.
Do you think that Winston keeps in Mistake in this matchup? Or do you think he would take it out? And then...
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, my
Curiously, Emergency Teleport is not even in his side deck. So if he did want to switch back into the more traditional Ritual Beast build, he can't even do that. So I'm not sure. Maybe he's committed to 3 copies of Mistake for every deck that searches.
Yeah, it
Even
seems
a little
like
bit.
if he's emitting Emergency Teleport, he's just thinking that, oh, my deck can function correctly without this card. So it seems as though if he would take out Mistake, he would replace it with some other defensive card, such as Chaos Trap Hole. But then the question is, does Brian McDermott side in cards like Fairy Wind to deal with Mistake if he thinks it's going to be a problem? Yeah, Fairy Wind's most likely in his
That is
side deck for
possible.
the Teller Knight Mirror match or against Qualifier, for example. Qualifier especially is very susceptible to Fairy Wind.
Yeah. Fairy Wind's very good against Cliff Force. It can hit a couple cards in Winston's deck though. He's got the 3 copies of Mistake, the Macrocosmos, the Dimensional Fissure. He's got 2 copies of Anti-Spell Fragrance in the side deck, which we probably won't see here, but it's Soul Drain. It hits cards, so it's possible he put it in. So who chose to go first here?
It looks like
Or who
McDermott
chose?
because he's studying his
What
hand
did
for a while.
McDermott
Although
choose is the question.
Winston is showing the judge his hand so we can get it up on the screen. So, but even then, McDermott's hand is not very strong. 3. Yep, McDermott went first. He does not have Teller Knight Deneb in his hand. He does not have a lot of trap cards. He's forced to normal summon Satellar Knight Vega, special summon Satellar Knight Altair from his hand.
That's an unfortunate opening. You really like to start with Deneb when you're running Teller Knights, especially when you have the opportunity to preempt your opponent's Mistake or Thunder King Bio or something that would deprive you of that search. Instead, McDermott is summoning Vega, activating its effect to special summon Altair from his hand. It looks like he's
Summon Teller Knight Ptolemaeus.
combining them both to summon Ptolemaeus right off the bat.
I think it's arguable whether or not Ptolemaeus is better than Ujinte Tsukiyomi there. Does McDermott play any copies of Ujinte Tsukiyomi? No, he doesn't even use Ujinte Tsukiyomi. So normally when a Teller Knight's hand is poor or has a lot of monsters, they can summon a Ujinte Tsukiyomi, discard the remaining cards in their hand to draw up to 2 cards, or 2 cards. So they can refresh their hand, hopefully find more trap cards to protect themselves, but I don't know specifically let's see what options he has to go into with Teller Knight Ptolemaeus, what rank 5s he has.
Also, that would have been cool. I don't remember if the Galaxy Cyclone was in his initial hand, but that would have been pretty cool with Tsukiyomi too.
Yeah, that would have been very, very cool. I don't
Send
even...
it to grave.
Oh, okay, so the only other card that McDermott has to rank his Ptolemaeus up into is Constellar Pleiades, because he already put the Stellar Knight Constellar Diamond under it. So
for those who don't know, McDermott in his second main phase, not second main phase, his end phase,
Yes.
right? Attached a Teller Knight monster from his extra deck to his Ptolemaeus to bring it up to 3 Ixies materials. Now, during either duelist's turn, he can detach all 3 of them to Ixie summon a rank 5.
yeah, any rank 5 that's not a number monster.
And yes,
Yeah. So here, Pleiades. Usually,
as you mentioned before.
against decks that are relying on normal summons or relying on trap cards, can be disrupted easily where they're not special summoning a ton like Necros, etc. Pleiades presents a big threat as a way to gain a lot of tempo, set them back turns, or basically temporarily remove trap cards, like remove them for a turn so you can make big pushes. But ranking up now to bounce Rampengu, I'm not necessarily sure if that's the best option, because if Jarrell isn't able to clear the Teller Knight Ptolemaeus, then during his end phase, McDermott gets another material, and then if McDermott can wait another turn, he gets an additional material. So he could have summoned a Pleiades with at least 3 materials. So Teller Knight specifically has the best Teller Knight Ptolemaeus because they have so many Stellar Knights in their extra deck that they're able to attach his materials. So after bouncing the Rampengu...
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what we're seeing now. Galaxy Cyclone destroys Macrocosmos. If he wants, he can then banish the Galaxy Cyclone to destroy Dimensional Fissure. Now, here's why I kind of like using Pleiades to return the Ritual Beast to Winston's hand there immediately. Since Winston's not using Emergency Teleport, he does have trouble getting more than 1 monster on the field at a time.
Yeah.
So just keeping him on 0 monsters is actually a pretty strong play. And as we're seeing now, he has the Pleiades, just summoned Vega, uses effect to summon Deneb. So he's just swarming the field. So he's quickly getting very ahead. And you're right, the payoff would have been fairly high if he was able to amass more materials. But at the same time, he was able to prevent Winston from getting any monsters into his banish zone. and keep him without a field. So.
Yeah, but McDermott doesn't necessarily know that Winston isn't using emergency teleports. So
That's true.
Yeah, he doesn't know
That is
how
true.
much acceleration Winston necessarily has. And then even then you're bouncing away the Rampengu with just a Galaxy Cyclone and a Vagan in hand, hoping to draw a trap card, or he got lucky, drew Satellar Knight Deneb to keep his flow going. So
It's true. The Deneb was a very good draw there.
yeah, we'll see what he chooses to summon. Nothing seems especially strong here, because he already has some Satellar Knights in the grave, because they were all detached as Xyz materials. Except for, yeah, they were all detached as Xyz materials. So his Altair hand's live, and then he can put Deneb in the grave with Dagusto Emerald.
Oh,
Shuffle back Ptolemaeus, I assume.
That's pretty
And
strong.
Diamond, yeah. This is
Although, the only monster he can Xyz summon, the only rank 5 he can summon with Ptolemaeus is on his field, right? It's Pleiades.
Well, he also put back the Stellar Knight Constellar Diamond, so he could rank up into that, although it poses much less of a threat than.
Okay.
Yeah. What would have been more interesting there is if so this exact situation, he doesn't put Constellar Knight or Stellar Knight Constellar Diamond under as an Xyz material, right, and puts another Teller Knight. So then when Jarrell summons Rampengu and activates effect, McDermott could have responded to summon Diamond, and then Diamond has a continuous effect that says your opponent can't send cards from their deck to the graveyard. So it would have mitigated Rampengu's effect. And it would have had him stuck with Rampengu in play, but I'm not necessarily sure if that's better or worse, because then it does eventually get banished by Dimensional Fissure, because it's not in his hand like this situation. But
Certainly a different line.
yeah.
So it looks like McDermott drew a card with the Emerald, attacked directly with his monsters, and now play is back to Winston, who summoned Canahawk.
McDermott giving a quick read. One upside to playing Ritual Beast seems to be that not many players are necessarily familiar with them. So not knowing how to combat them in the most optimal way, or as we saw last game, using Raigeki when it was clearly a little less than optimal, could be a reason that Jarrell has found success so far in this tournament. We also saw Ritual Beast top the 150th YCS, correct?
Did he? Yes, we did. We saw at least one of the top 32 of the 150th YCS.
McDermott, breakthrough skills of the Kanahawk. Play passes back to McDermott, and then during his main phase, he banishes Galaxy Cyclone to destroy Dimensional Fissure. Yeah.
So that's okay. Looked like he did on his opponent's turn, but it looked like Winston just passed without making any further play. And that's all it took. So, yeah, so Winston is running a lot of monsters in his deck, 17 monsters, and a bunch of crap cards to try to counteract popular strategies. But didn't draw Ritual Beast Ambush to special summon them, wasn't able to keep a monster on the table, and McDermott was able to defeat him pretty quickly in that duel.
Yeah. I was talking earlier how I would have probably taken the more patient line of waiting with Teller Knight Ptolemaeus to rank it up, but McDermott's play actually was probably one of the best he could have made there, completely setting Winston back that far without knowing, obviously not knowing that Winston's hand is full of monsters, so he can't, just protect himself and then do the same thing next turn, etc. But because Winston had drawn so many monsters, the Pleiades punished him severely.
Yeah, I mean, he was probably very easily able to sense that Winston had a weak hand, partially because of the plays up until that point where Winston hadn't really been playing anything, and partially because he saw in Duel 1 that Winston is using cards like Dimensional Fissure and copies of Mistake in lieu of cards that streamline the Ritual Beast strategy to summon as Canahawk quickly. Interestingly enough, we're about to enter Duel 3, and we have yet to see Ritual Beast Ulti Canahawk hit the field. And that's usually one of the most popular cards summoned in Ritual Beast decks because of the fact that it can search for cards to add to the hand, making it so consistent, the deck so consistent.
Yeah. Is that their main card advantage engine?
Typically, that's the card they use to optimize their options, pull the cards from the deck that they need, and add cards to their hand.
Yeah, and then winning the game riding the cards that they got off of.
Right. There's a lot of powerful cards that it can take, including Ritual Beast Steeds, which we actually also haven't seen, which can destroy all your opponent's monsters. It destroys monsters up to the number of Ritual Beast you control,
Very
and
powerful
Ritual
card.
Beast Ambush, which we have seen, and we did see was a turning point in Duel 1, which lets the player special summon a Tamer and a Spiritual Beast from the back zone and or graveyard.
Yeah, both Ritual Beast Steeds and Ritual Beast Ambush are very, very strong. So going back to side deck, Drill's just making sure he's 15 again. It looked like he was considering signing out Dimensional Fissure there because I very much agree with that. I don't think that card's very strong against Satellar Knight. All you really do is mitigate Unu Call High, and besides that, they can detach monsters as Exceed material. So unless they open very weak with like a Deneb, search Altair, no way to protect their Deneb, and you're able to activate D-Fissure and just destroy the Deneb, banish it so they can't Altair it back, Dimensional Fissure doesn't really have the same value here as it does against decks like Burning Abyss, Shadal, Necroz, etc.
That's a good point, because even with Altair, special summoning from the graveyard, and Call of Haunted special summoning from the graveyard, you're right, a lot of those monsters that are sent to the graveyard are sent there as Xyz materials, and as players may or may not know, an Xyz material is not on the field, so when it would be sent to the graveyard, it's not sent from the field to the graveyard, so it will still remain in the graveyard.
Well, specifically with Dimensional Fissure, it doesn't matter where it's sent from. It's the fact that the Xyz materials aren't monsters.
Oh, okay, that,
Yeah.
You're correct. It's because they're not monsters, it's sent to the graveyard.
Yeah, indeed. And then, even though Dimensional Fissure isn't necessarily the best, I would most definitely keep in Macrocosmos.
Yes, yes. Macrocosmos sends all cards to the graveyard,
Yeah,
so even Xyz materials will be sent there.
Yeah, just banishing every card. So, at any point, Winston draws Macrocosmos. If he's able to force McDermott into summoning his monsters and then banishing from the grave, like depleting his graveyard full of resources, then that could be a good way for Winston to win. Let's see, he drew another hand of... So he has Raigeki, Ritual Beast Steeds, and 3 monsters.
3 monsters we can't yet identify.
Yeah.
You know what would make that hand really good?
Emergency Teleport.
You know it.
Okay. McDermott opened Mystical Space Typhoon, so a single trap card for Winston isn't going to be enough. I don't see the rest of his hand. Oh, Reinforcement of the Army. So this hand's already good. Mystical Space Typhoon, being able to clear away Winston's single trap, and then Reinforcements Army to find Deneb. He also has Alpha and Call of the Haunted. So McDermott's hand is very, very strong, assuming that Winston can't pull off a lot of acceleration to push him through. But because McDermott already has Stellar Nova Alpha, he should be able to mitigate a decent amount of what Drell can do while drawing cards in the process, putting Altair or Deneb into the graveyard so that he can summon it back with Altair later, or the Called On.
So Winston summons Rempengu, activates his effect, sends Counterhawk to the grave, and banishes an ulti Counterhawk from his extra deck, then sets a card to his back row. Didn't see what it was, but I can only assume it's a Ritual Beast Steeds. And then play passes back to McDermott, who activates Mystical Space Typhoon.
Destroying the Steeds.
Steeds are gone. Yeah, you're right. McDermott's hand is really powerful.
2 copies of Stellar Nova Alpha, already has an Altair in hand. So, yeah, he can even choose the line of using Deneb to search Stellar Knight Vega instead. And then with Stellar Knight Vega, special summon the Altair to bring back the Deneb to start using Deltaros instead, or was it Stellar Knight Trevere? But it seems like it's most likely that he would choose to search Altair just in case the first one doesn't go through. He has a second copy. But because he has Call of the Haunted already, 2 copies of Alpha, it's probably safe that he doesn't need to search it and then would rather search something like he did with Stellar Knight Vega.
He has Deneb in his hand. So he's summoning Vega, activating its effect. He's going to special summon Deneb from his hand, and then activate Deneb's effect to search his deck for a Stellar Knight to add to his hand.
Oh, okay. I see. I thought the Stellar Knight Deneb in the hand was Stellar Knight Vega.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he already had the Deneb. And this is a great play because now he has 2 Stellar Nova Alphas, and both of them are online if he keeps those 2 monsters on the field.
He's going to his extra deck. Do either have enough attack to destroy Ritual Beast Rampengu?
Let's check on Rampengu's attack points.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look like that they have enough, because otherwise I'm sure he would have gone to battle already and tried to deal with it. unless he's thinking about a way to maybe get it off and not in the graveyard, like using Castell the Sky Blast messages here to shuffle it back into the deck so then Jarrell can't access it later.
With an ambush or something like that?
Yeah, anything.
It's possible. Let's see. Cannahawk has... that's Rempengu, sorry.
Yeah.
Rempengu has 1,600 attack
Yeah,
points.
so not enough for Satellar Knight to get
yes.
with 1,500. Yep, so he makes Castell shuffle it back in.
Okay, so he went for your line. So that's a lot weaker than I had thought. But he's still in good shape because his Call of the Haunted, which he can use to bring back his Deneb.
Yep.
And if he activates that immediately, it'll be on the field so that he can use his Stellar Nova out.
Yeah, it might actually be better for him to call the Haunted the Vega to special summon the Altair from his hand and use the Altair to bring back the Deneb.
That is better.
So he can search another Altair
Yeah.
the same way, and then he has both of the Alphas live and an additional level 4 just floating.
That would be amazing. Let's see if he's doing that in his draw phase, though.
Doesn't look like it. It looks like he's
passing that opportunity.
Yeah, passing priority.
I am not crazy about that. Let's see how it works out. Yeah, this seems very risky on McDermott's part if he's permitting Winston to play cards without having his Stellar Nova Alphas ready to flip. Although I guess he's going to have... There's nothing that Winston can play right now that he'd really want to negate. So it's possible that... So maybe this isn't that bad, actually, because now he got Winston to commit the Elder to his field, and now it looks like he's making that play.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think that getting like an extra card from Winston's hand is worthwhile compared to how much... Like he could get so far ahead of Winston with that Call of the Haunted in the draw phase and set up the Alphas where Winston can't do anything because he has two Alphas that will draw him more cards. I don't think it was necessarily worthwhile to take that. It seems a little greedy, in my opinion, to wait.
I would agree, but is there a card Winston could have played that would have made him regret that?
I mean, even Mystical Space Typhoon on Call of the Haunted would have been a big deal because then he wouldn't be able to get any Stellar Knights into play.
I mean,
because even if he gets Vega, because Vega's no longer on the field when it would go to activate, he cannot special summon the Stellar Knight Altair from his hand because it's in the middle of the chain. Unless Vega's a mana.
Well, if he chained the Mystical Space Typhoon to the Call of the Haunted, he would get none of those monsters anyway, right? So it didn't matter when he activated.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, well, what about Galaxy Cyclone on the Call of the Haunted? Because if he chains it, then he can't do it. Whereas if he does it draw phase, the Galaxy Cyclone can't destroy a face-up card. But because Galaxy Cyclone only requires the card to be set when you activate it, yeah. But
chain it.
Okay, yeah, so
maybe
with Raigeki,
maybe it works either way. Either way here, Winston activates Raigeki, hoping to destroy 4 monsters, but McDermott was not going to have that. So he activated Stellar Nova Alpha, contributed his Teller Knight, drew a card, and negated it. That appears to be Lara. Virtual Beast Tamer Lara. So now he has 2 Virtual Beast Tamers. He activates Lara's effect, special summon a Spiritual Beast from his grave.
And that prompts McDermott to flip the second copy Stellar Nova Alpha. We see a reaction from Winston, clearly upset by the situation that he has to deal with 2 copies of Alpha.
So he tried to use Lara's ability.
So now in a pretty commanding position here.
Yes, and as we mentioned before, now Winston's committed his Elder to the field. So this actually worked out perfectly for McDermott.
Yeah, I believe McDermott also drew the 3rd copy of Stellar Nova Alpha.
That would be incredible if he
yes,
did.
especially because he can make an Exceed with his 2 Altairs here if he wanted, or just 2 of his 3 Stellar Knights, and then from there leave 1 face up so that he contributed away for the Alpha. But he's going to use all 3. Oh, he's probably going to make Trevere to bounce.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also get a card out of Winston's hand. And then he also has, because you contribute the Trevere for the Stellar Nova Alpha, that's still a profitable exchange. We'll see. And yeah, just reusing that Call on. It's going to be so strong here. It's unfortunate because I don't think he has another...
He has Mind Crush in his hand,
this
too.
is
So
also
if,
just great.
If he doesn't get rid of the Elder from Winston's hand, he can name the Elder with Mind Crush and just discard it on his next turn. He hit Apelio, so now he can also hit the Elder with Mind Crush. Winston's down to no cards, so virtually down to no cards. He technically has a card in his hand.
Yeah, but with Mind Crush dealing with that, and then Stellar Nova Alpha dealing with whatever he draws.
And now he also gets to see the trap stun that Winston just picked up. But that won't do much.
Yeah, it seems like.
And he could destroy with I probably will destroy it with that Galaxy Cyclone too. You want to keep the trap stun off the field since you have a live Stellar Nova Alpha face down.
Yeah, I agree.
As well as breakthrough skill.
Yeah, even if he chains it, then
Right.
McDermott can chain Call of the Haunted in response.
He can do that. That's true.
So it doesn't even.
And it looks like he's considering it.
Yeah.
Now, if he chains the Call of the Haunted will resolve, bring back the Teller Knight, and then the Trapstone will resolve, negate the Call of the Haunted. Does that mean that the monster's fate is no longer linked to the fate of the Call of the Haunted?
Correct, for this turn.
For this turn only?
For this turn, yes. For this turn, the effect of Call of the Haunted is negated. It doesn't do anything to the Vega.
But next turn, if you were to destroy Call of the Haunted...
Correct, the Vega would be destroyed. But Vega's most likely not long for this field, as he'll probably be used as an Exceeds material.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think Winston's long for this duel.
I would agree with that. Yeah, with 3,900 life points, it does not look like that. So.
Yeah.
I believe they're just discussing how Topstone interacts with Call of the Haunted, as we were mentioning before. So. Yeah. Realizing that it's just...
And there's the Altair.
Yeah, going...
With Vega's effect, he special summoned. Or no, he looks like maybe normal
no, he just normal summoned main phase 2, and looks like he's going to Cowboy for some extra style points.
So he already attacked directly.
Yeah. Usually the effect of Gaga Cowboy. Yep. And that's the duel. So with less than impressive showing, Jarrell gets his first loss in the tournament, correct?
Yes,
With
both of these players were undefeated, so they are not out of it yet. It was a close match. It was a 2-1 match. And as I mentioned before, since they are both undefeated, this is not over for Jarrell Winston. He's still in the tournament, and he can keep winning and still make it into the top 64 cut.
Yeah.
Brian McDermott is also looking good in this tournament with his currently undefeated record using his Teller Knight deck. So that's it for round 3. We'll have the playback with Ellen Thomas and Marcelo Parisi coming up for you to watch from our round 2 feature match. And we'll be back with round 4 soon. Right.